Imagine living in a world where trust feels like a luxury, where every smile hides a shadow, and where even the closest relationships can carry seeds of betrayal. Trust is the invisible thread that holds society together, yet history, psychology, and philosophy remind us that blind trust can destroy lives. In today's video, we dive into the minds of two towering thinkers, Carl Jung, the depth psychologist who explored the unconscious and archetypes of human behavior, and Byung-Chul Han, the Korean-German philosopher, whose critiques of modern culture have captivated millions. Together, their insights expose the 6 types of people you should never trust if you value your freedom, sanity, and future. This is not just another motivational list. It is a confrontation with uncomfortable truths about human nature, manipulation, and the dangers hidden in plain sight. Jung teaches us to look inward, to recognize the archetypal masks people wear, and shows us the ways digital culture and modern society normalize deception and exploitation. By bringing their ideas together, we will uncover how certain personalities erode trust, how toxic power dynamics are built, and why you must sharpen your psychological vision before it's too late. So prepare yourself, because once you see these truths, you won't be able to unsee them. Part 1. The Eternal Manipulator. Carl Jung once said, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. But what happens when one of those substances is toxic, corrosive, and designed to manipulate? The first person you must never trust is the manipulator, the individual who shapes every word, gesture, and relationship to serve their hidden agenda. Manipulators thrive in silence and ambiguity. They wear masks of charm, generosity, and even vulnerability. But underneath lies a carefully calculated script. Jung's concept of the persona, the mask we wear to face society, becomes a weapon in the hands of manipulators. They know how to show you exactly what you want to see, while concealing the true self beneath layers of deception. Byung-Chul Han sharpens this picture in his critique of our performance-driven culture. In his book, The Transparency Society, he explains how modern life pressures us to constantly perform, present, and display. Manipulators exploit this environment. They craft digital identities that shine with curated perfection, using social media and status to manipulate trust. Every like and every share becomes a thread in their web, making it harder for you to see the truth behind the mask. Never forget this. Manipulators don't just deceive you, they rewrite your sense of reality. Their presence can make you doubt your own instincts, leading you to second-guess your inner voice. And when you start questioning your intuition, they've already won. To protect yourself, you must sharpen your awareness of subtle emotional cues, inconsistencies in speech, and the eerie feeling that something isn't right. Because often, the manipulator is smiling while quietly feeding on your confidence, your time, and your life. Part 2. The Perpetual Victim. The second person you should never trust is more dangerous than they appear. The perpetual victim. At first glance, they seem harmless, even sympathetic. They are always the one who suffers, always the one misunderstood, always the one wronged by the cruelty of the world. You feel drawn to comfort them, to offer support, to rescue them from their misfortunes. But beware, this mask of victimhood often hides a darker truth. Jung warned of the shadow, the unconscious side of the personality where we hide our fears, weaknesses, and darker impulses. The perpetual victim projects their shadow outward. Instead of taking responsibility for their choices, they shift blame onto others. Life is always unfair, society is always against them, and relationships are always the source of their suffering. By positioning themselves as powerless, they gain control because your empathy becomes their leash. Byung-Chul Han's critique of today's burnout society adds another layer here. In an age where everyone is exhausted by performance, productivity, and comparison, victimhood becomes a kind of social capital. By showing wounds, real or exaggerated, the perpetual victim attracts attention, sympathy, and even power. On social media, victimhood can generate likes, comments, and solidarity. But behind this digital performance, the perpetual victim may manipulate you into carrying their burdens while they avoid accountability. Trusting the perpetual victim is dangerous because they pull you into their endless drama. You will find yourself defending them, sacrificing for them, and even fighting battles that were never yours to begin with. And in the end, you are left drained emotionally, mentally, and spiritually while they move on to the next rescuer. The wisdom of Jung reminds us, healing begins when we integrate the shadow, not when we project it onto others. And Han would remind us that true liberation comes when we stop performing for pity and start reclaiming our agency. Therefore, the perpetual victim is not just someone to avoid. They are a mirror warning us of what happens when we abandon responsibility and live only through blame. Part 3. The narcissist disguised as a leader. The third person you should never trust wears the crown of authority, but rules with a hollow heart. The narcissist disguised as a leader. At first, they seem confident, visionary, even inspiring. They know how to command attention, how to ignite admiration, and how to make you feel that by following them, you are part of something greater. But beneath this polished exterior lies a dangerous truth. Their leadership is not about collective growth. It is about feeding their endless hunger for validation. Carl Jung wrote about the inflated ego, the false self that loses balance by identifying too strongly with an archetype, such as the hero, the king, or the savior. When a narcissist assumes the role of a leader, they confuse their own ego with destiny itself. They are not guiding you for your sake. They are using you as a mirror to reflect their own image of greatness. Byung-Chul Han's critique of today's achievement, society deepens this warning. In his analysis, modern culture rewards those who appear endlessly productive, endlessly visionary, endlessly confident. Social platforms amplify this illusion. A carefully edited video, a dramatic speech, a well-timed photo, and suddenly the narcissist is seen as a prophet of progress. But this projection is fragile. Their charisma thrives only as long as others feed it with loyalty, applause, and submission. Trusting such a leader is like walking into a storm believing it will protect you. Their need for admiration blinds them to truth, blinds them to justice, and blinds them to the real needs of those they lead. And when their empire of illusions collapses, they will not save you. They will sacrifice you to preserve their image. Jung reminds us that the true leader integrates humility with vision, while Han shows us that our culture often mistakes performance for authenticity. When you encounter a leader who never admits fault, who silences dissent, and who thrives on endless applause, step back. For you are standing before a narcissist in disguise, and they will devour the trust you give them. Part 4. The eternal gossip. The fourth person you must never trust appears friendly, attentive, and full of knowledge about everyone else. They are the eternal gossip, the one who always has a story, a rumor, or a whisper to share. At first, it may seem harmless, even entertaining. You may feel flattered that they confide in you, that you are part of their inner circle of secrets. But remember this, if they gossip to you, they will gossip about you. Jung described how the psyche is driven by the collective unconscious, the shared myths and archetypes that bind us together. Gossip twists this bond, reducing the sacred exchange of human experience into fragments of half-truths and distortions. Gossipers feed on the shadows of others, collecting weaknesses and mistakes not to heal them, but to weaponize them. Byung-Chul Han's writings on communication in the digital age reveal how gossip has become amplified beyond recognition. What was once a whispered rumor at the village well is now a viral post on social media. Information spreads instantly, stripped of depth, stripped of context, until reputations are destroyed in seconds. The eternal gossip thrives in this landscape. They are fueled by likes, shares, and attention, while those they betray are left powerless. Trusting a gossip is not simply unwise, it is self-destructive. Because the moment you share your truth with them, it becomes currency in their economy of betrayal. They will trade your story for approval, for entertainment, or simply for the thrill of being the center of attention. Jung reminds us that true dialogue requires honesty and trust, while Han warns us that oversharing in the digital age exposes us to unseen dangers. When you hear the whispers of the gossip, remember this: their tongue is a double-edged sword, and one day it will cut you too. Part 5. The Power-Hungry Opportunist. The fifth person you must never trust is more subtle, more patient, and far more dangerous: the power-hungry opportunist. Unlike the narcissist who craves constant admiration, the opportunist can wait in silence, watching, calculating, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. They may appear loyal, humble, even selfless, but every move they make is designed to position themselves closer to power. Carl Jung explored the archetype of the trickster, a figure who disrupts order, who deceives, who uses cunning rather than strength to achieve their goals. The opportunist embodies this archetype. They exploit every relationship, every crisis, every shift of fortune, turning it to their advantage. They study your weaknesses, your routines, your ambitions, and then maneuver themselves into your blind spots. Byung-Chul Han, in his analysis of neoliberal competition, shows how our world rewards opportunism. In societies where everything is a race, the opportunist thrives by bending the rules, exploiting loopholes, and presenting themselves as indispensable when the moment is right. They are not interested in truth, not interested in loyalty. They are interested only in ascending higher, no matter who they must betray along the way. Trusting the opportunist is dangerous because betrayal will not come suddenly. It will come at the exact moment, when you are most vulnerable. They will smile as they take what is yours, justify their treachery as ambition, and then vanish into their next conquest. Jung teaches us that the trickster can sometimes reveal hidden truths, but when embodied in the opportunist, it becomes a destructive force. Han reminds us that in our hyper-competitive world, opportunists are celebrated, even admired, but behind the applause lies the wreckage of those who trusted them. Therefore, guard your circle carefully. The opportunist is patient, but their hunger never ends. If you allow them too close, their betrayal will not just wound you, it will alter the very foundation of your trust in others. Part 6. The Hypocrite Cloaked in Virtue. The sixth person you must never trust is perhaps the most deceptive of all: the hypocrite cloaked in virtue. They present themselves as moral, as righteous, as guardians of truth and justice. They speak the language of integrity, charity, and responsibility, but behind their polished words lies a reality of contradiction. Their virtue is not a way of life, it is a costume, carefully tailored to hide ambition, greed, or corruption. Carl Jung warned that what we repress in ourselves often emerges in distorted ways. The hypocrite represses their shadow and disguises it beneath a false halo. They project goodness so that no one questions their motives. Yet their inner life is filled with envy, deceit, and self-interest. Jung called this the danger of inflation, when a person identifies so strongly with an image of moral perfection that they lose touch with the truth of their own darkness. Byung-Chul Han provides a chilling modern perspective. In his critique of today's positive society, he observes how people constantly market themselves as virtuous, ethical and socially conscious, not always out of sincerity, but as a performance to gain approval. We live in an age of virtue signaling, where appearances matter more than reality. The hypocrite thrives here. They use moral language as a weapon, silencing critics and elevating themselves, while quietly betraying the very values they claim to defend. Trusting such a person is dangerous because their betrayal is not always obvious. They may donate to charity while exploiting workers. They may preach loyalty while betraying loved ones. They may champion honesty while hiding their own lies. Their hypocrisy poisons trust itself, leaving you doubting not just them but the very values they pretended to embody. Remember Jung's lesson. True integrity comes not from denying the shadow, but from confronting it honestly. And Han would remind us that the more society rewards appearances, the more masks multiply. Do not be blinded by words, by virtue, by polished reputations. The hypocrite's light is artificial, and it will blind you just long enough for them to steal what matters most. Part 7. The Empty Conformist. The seventh and final type of person you must never trust is not always malicious, but their danger lies in their emptiness. The conformist, who never thinks for themselves. Unlike the manipulator, the narcissist, or the opportunist, the conformist does not scheme or plot. Their betrayal comes from their inability to stand apart, their willingness to follow the crowd, even when the crowd is marching toward destruction. Carl Jung described the terrifying power of the collective psyche. In crowds, people lose individuality, surrendering to groupthink and collective impulses. History is filled with examples of ordinary people committing extraordinary acts of cruelty simply because they refuse to question authority, tradition, or the majority. Jung warned that when we abandon our individuality, we open the door to the darkest forces of the unconscious. Byung-Chul Han echoes this warning in his critique of digital culture. He argues that modern society is shaped not by independent thinkers but by endless repetition, viral trends, and algorithm-driven conformity. People mimic what they see online, share what everyone else shares, and think what the digital crowd rewards. The conformist thrives in this atmosphere. They are never the first to act, never the first to resist, but they are always ready to follow, no matter where it leads. Why should you never trust them? Because when the moment of truth arrives, when you need someone to stand by you, to defend justice, to resist corruption, the conformist will vanish into the crowd. Their loyalty is not to you, not to truth, but to the majority. And the majority, as history shows us, is often blind. Jung reminds us that true individuation, the process of becoming whole, requires breaking away from the crowd and embracing one's authentic self. Han warns that in a world dominated by conformity, individuality is an act of resistance. The conformist cannot be trusted because they will betray you, not out of malice but out of weakness. And weakness, when multiplied across millions, becomes the breeding ground for tyranny. Ending. A final warning. We have now uncovered the 7 types of people. You must never trust the manipulator, the perpetual victim, the narcissist disguised as a leader, the eternal gossip, the opportunist, the hypocrite cloaked in virtue, and the conformist who hides in the crowd. Each one carries a different mask, a different strategy, a different poison, but they share one thing in common. Their presence erodes trust, corrupts relationships, and blinds us to truth. Carl Jung and Byung-Chul Han, though separated by time and culture, converge on one essential truth: that human beings wear masks, that society rewards illusions, and that the greatest danger lies not in open enemies, but in the subtle betrayals of those closest to us. Jung urges us to confront the shadow within and around us. Han reminds us to resist the culture of performance, conformity, and false appearances. Together, their insights give us the tools to see more clearly, to judge more wisely, and to protect ourselves from those who would exploit our trust. So let this video be more than just a warning. Let it be a call to sharpen your perception. The world is full of faces, but not all are true. Trust is precious, and once broken, it is difficult to restore. Protect it, guard it, and remember the wisdom of Jung. The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. When you walk that path of authenticity, you will see clearly which masks are safe and which must be left behind.